I'm breaking a major bonsai rule, and I want to tell you why because I think there's an important lesson to be learned. If you've been doing bonsai for a while, or even if you're just getting started, you probably heard this one before. Never do two major operations at the same time. What that means is don't prune and repot on the same day. Why? Because it's too much stress for the tree. And honestly, that's really good advice. 95% of the time, I'm going to be following that advice to keep my bonsais healthy. But every now and again, you have a tree where waiting to split those two operations apart isn't a safer option, it's more risky. So today, I'm going to break that rule and I'm going to walk you through exactly why I'm going to do it. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to talk about the rule and why it exists. This is going to be really important, don't skip this bit, because you can't safely break rules without first understanding them. Next, we're going to take a look at a tree and the specific problem it's facing. I'm going to talk you through the exact decision-making process I've applied to this tree, so hopefully you can take it away and do the same to your own bonsai. Finally, I'll show you the work, repotting and pruning the tree, and I'm going to highlight the important parts of the process that don't apply on a standard repot or styling. Hi, I'm David from Bonsaiable, and I make bonsai videos. If you like what you see here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the amazing stuff I've got in the pipeline. Okay, so let's talk about this rule we want to break. We're talking about the advice that says don't do two major operations on your tree at the same time. That's a bit of a mouthful, so I've shortened it to the single task principle. Yes, I'm coining that term. Now let's get specific about what we mean here. When we say operations, we're talking about repotting, so root reduction, root ball disturbance, and pruning, reducing the foliage on the tree. And when we say don't do them at the same time, we mean in the same season. So basically, if you're in spring, you can't repot one day and prune the next and say, I've done them at different times. It doesn't work like that. If you do one operation, say you repot in spring, you should wait at least until early autumn to do your styling, depending on the tree, species, whatever. But most of the time you're going to want to wait a year and do your next operation next spring. So why does this advice exist? Well, the reason is you can split your tree in half, right? You have your roots, which are there to draw up water and nutrients from the soil to help distribute around the tree. And if you disturb those roots during a repot and you've got nice healthy top growth left behind, that energy fueled by the photosynthesis in that foliage helps to rebuild the root system. Equally, if you prune off a lot of foliage, you're reducing the tree's ability to build up energy that it uses to grow. So if you damage the root ball during a repot and you prune, not only are you reducing the tree's ability to take up water and nutrients from the soil, which it needs to do to cool itself, to keep the tree healthy and growing, but you've also taken away the tree's ability to regain energy and rebuild its root system. So by following this rule, you're going to reduce the risk of trees dying if you do too much all at once. But not just that. If you do too much at once and it's a massive shock to the tree, you're going to delay the development of that bonsai because it will take longer to rebuild its root system if it doesn't have proper foliage to do it. So while you might feel like you're making more progress by doing two things at the same time to speed up the development of your tree, you might actually be shooting yourself in the foot by impairing the health of the tree, which means it takes a lot longer to get it to a nice refined bonsai. So if the single task principle is so important, why am I going to break it with this tree? Let me bring it into the studio and I'll show you. So here's our tree. This is, if I remember correctly, this is a Siberian spruce. And I picked up as a Christmas tree a few years ago, and I wanted to do this experiment where I bought two of the same tree and I planted one in a bonsai pot without pruning it. You can see some pictures. It was totally mad. And then I had another one which I styled first and then pruned after and kind of took more of a sensible, longer term approach with it. This tree got put in a pot and its roots are so massively overgrown because it was such a big tree for the size of the pot. I did come in and cut back a lot of the foliage. You can see some of the stubs and a lot of the cut marks. I cut away loads of it, but I don't remember why. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. It's so tall. It's way too tall. And any time there's any breath of wind, this thing keeps just toppling over and it's a nightmare in the gardens. The roots massively need addressed. I have to do these roots. I should have done them last year. And, everything else just got in the way. So this tree got neglected. And I need to sort out the top of it because it's just a big wind sail that topples over all the time. So that's the reason I need to do two things at once. Because if I don't do the roots, it's going to suffer because it's quite hard to water now. It's so full that water just bounces off the top of it. And equally, I don't want it to fall and pot or damage any of the branches. And I also don't want it to fall on anywhere of the tree. So it's just a bit of a hindrance in the garden. So I'm going to set it on the road to becoming a nice bonsai because I think it's got potential. It's got a strong base and then it's got a nice slender trunk line. The other consideration with this tree is it's a nursery stock tree. It's not that many years out of the ground. So a tree that can handle a bit more stress and it'll be able to bounce back quicker. If this was an ancient Yamadori, I would probably do something different. I would probably do the roots and not take any of the top growth off and just find a better way of securing it in the garden. But it's the kind of tree where I'm happy to run the slight risk of doing two operations at once, and just for the feasibility of it, I want to get this all sorted out now so that I don't have to worry about it over the rest of the year. Okay, so one really important thing I want to talk about before we start, and you're going to want to take note of this, is you should always start working on the foliage first and then do your repot second. The reason is, as we're coming in and doing stuff to this foliage, it's going to put pressure on the roots. So you want to do any manipulation of the top growth first before you weaken the structure of the roots. When I'm approaching this pruning, what I'm thinking is I need to bring down the height of this tree so it's more in proportion with the pot. I'm so annoyed. My camera stopped recording. I'm really sorry. This is where we've ended up with the pruning. I've cut back the big tall branch that was up here. These are the two tall side branches at the top. And I've pulled off all the needles off these branches as well. I've been turning this on the turntable and trying to assess where the front might be on the tree to help me guide which branches I was going to take away. And I'm thinking this is going to be roughly here, the front that I'm going to pot it at. And I'm probably going to put it up on an angle to bring it forward more towards the viewer. And then these branches can become the apex. Let me show you how much we've taken off. So this is the foliage we've removed compared to what's on there. It's a fair proportion of the foliage of this tree, maybe 25% of it, 20%. So it's not too much, but equally it's not something to be sniffed at either. Taking that much of a tree will have an impact on it, so we just need to be aware of that. But onwards onto the repot. Right, repotting time. I think repotting is my favorite thing to do in bonsai. Love it so much. Okay, let's take it out of the pot first. If it'll come. No. Okay, I'm not surprised that's not coming because it's so overgrown in here. I'm going to take my comma, root sickle, and free up the walls. Jesus! This thing is so pot bound. What you really need to do with these pot bound trees is get the root sickle in as deep as you can and drag it out. Just try and make space between the roots and the side of the container. You need to use quite a lot of force. This time maybe. Oh, pop. Okay, let's see what we have here. This is just a rock solid cake of roots. Wowzers. This is going to be hard work to get through. I'm going to start with the top. I'm going to get rid of all these bums. Going to get rid of all these little weeds and things. To make a dent in this solid root mass, you really need to use a bit of elbow grease. My trusty rusty root pruning shears. do we have here? Ooh. Here we have the top of a wooden stake. This must have been part of my tie-down strategy when I potted this last time. So this will be interesting. Generally when I put wooden stakes in like this, it will be because the tree has an inclination to fall a certain way, and so you can put blocks in like this to stop the tree falling and make it more stable. I imagine with the density of this root ball now, we're not going to need anything like this anymore, and I'm not going to try and dig it out, it'll just rot away on its own. Interesting that it's there. Wow, this is rock solid still. So many roots. So what we're aiming for is to get down to a portion of the root ball where we've got akadama that's not broken down. Soil that's not broken down. So that means we'll have gotten through the dense layer of top roots, and that'll help water to reach the core of the root ball. So this is kind of, we're getting it through to looser bits here. This is what we want to see. So I'm going to keep working round. For now, that feels like a good start on the top of the root ball. We've managed to get rid of a lot of the surface roots. We've reached friable soil, which means watering will be easier. So I'm going to clean up some space and start tackling the bottom of the tree. Okay. Woohoo! This is good. Once we've taken off that bottom sheet of roots, you can see there's a lot of intact soil here, and it's not too compacted in a lot of places. So the core of the root ball is looking good. Here's the other wooden block. This is going to have to be cut back, I think, to get this tree flusher into the pot. Okay, it's time to do the sides. Same sort of thing. Big root here. Don't know if I can get through it or not. Hoofty. Wow. That's so thick. See, it's got like layers on it. Just roots upon roots. Now I don't want to just cut into this without knowing what it feeds, but so I'm going to start nibbling it back until I see it hitting something useful. Oh, that's dead. That one. Not there. It's alive there. I think this block is going to get in our way, and we've exposed enough of it now that it should be easy to take it out, so I'm going to come back and do that. Clearly this tree was not stable. I blocked it on two sides, probably to stop it falling over either way. And you'll often need to do that on a first repot, and if it doesn't have the roots to hold it in the position you want it, you need to figure out another way, and wooden blocks are a really good way of doing that. Nice. It's held up well. Inside here, similar to the walls of the root ball, how we had sheets of root growth there, we've got some in here. So I'm going to need to address that, because that's going to get in the way of proper root growth in the future. So I'm going to loosen that up in the same way as we've done for the other sides of the pot. So this is our front here, I think. Got a nice long root down here. This is a bit distracting for me. I know lots of people would probably like it and keep it. Let me know in the comments what you think. I considered removing it in the first repot, but I thought I'd keep it and see how I felt about it. But I don't like it, so it's going to come. Okay, I think that looks cleaner. And we can hopefully reveal a bit more nabari on that side now without that root getting in the way of the chopstick. So we've got a nice root at the front here as well. It's really sprawling out to the edge of the pot, which is awesome. It's amazing how I was having to put so much force into this top layer. But when you find a bit of the original sandy soil, because there's no roots grown in it, it just slides in, slides out. Okay, let's try slotting this back in the pot to see how it's looking. We do want a slight angle change on it, I think. So that's it. Perhaps a slight. Yeah, so I want a slight change in the front, and it won't fit in the pot as is. If we turn you around at the rear, if this is my new front, there's a bit of the root ball doesn't fit inside at that angle, so we're going to have to trim that back. I've got a full video of me repotting and completely changing the front of a fir bonsai. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to go and look at that. But for this, what we basically need to do is work through the root ball to reduce its size so it fits in the pot. Now, because we're doing two operations on this tree, I don't want to go any further than I need to in the root reduction. I want to leave the roots as undisturbed as possible. So I'm going to chip away with it just a little bit and see if it gets us there. Yeah, perfect. So that's in the pot. Probably can't pick this up from the angle in the camera, but the tree is leaning that way, and I probably want it more up here. So I need to bear that in mind when I'm securing it in. I'm going to want something holding it further forward so it doesn't fall over. Right, let's prep the pot. So for securing this tree into the pot, what I'm going to do is put a stake in here and a stake in the other side. Use those as my tie downs. The root ball is so solid and compact that the stakes will hold no problem. So I've cut these two wooden stakes to size, given them a pointy bit to hammer in. And now I'm going to insert them into the root ball. And I want to do them in a way where we make sure that they lie nicely over the holes. I can't be bothered going inside to get a hammer, so we're using pliers. There we are. That's solid. Now, a lot of people will tell you you should use bamboo for your stakes. I've never used bamboo. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to use. I'm sure it is. It must be excellent, but it's like can be quite difficult to get hold of, and it's more expensive. I just use scrap wood that I've got sitting in the shed, and yeah, it's always done really well. So that's what I'm going to keep doing and save my money. It's going to be quite a tight squeeze getting this into here with these stakes, but yeah, it's doable. One. Okay, next we need some soil. So the tie downs are on the stakes, not like tight on it. Before I do that, I'm going to put a bit of soil in behind the tree because I want to maintain this angle where it's tilted forwards. So by putting soil underneath it now, while it's positioned nicely, that soil's going to then stay there and hopefully keep the tree in the right position. Fill in the rest now. And all these little rootlets up the top, I'm going to prune away because they're not going to survive outside of the soil. Now, here we are. So we do have at the back here, the soil is raised up a bit. And ordinarily I would think about reducing this down with a chopstick so it's flusher with the pot. But I think because this is not purely a repot, I'm going to leave it as is to keep the root mass on the tree. So the final thing we need to do is apply some top dressing and water it. Put it out in the garden.